Housing affordability special report from Marcus and Millichap, again for this month in August. This is, I think, incredibly important because we are seeing some major affordability issues, part of the housing crisis, especially in kind of this workforce housing, kind of C and B minus class. So what is the conclusion of the report, Matt?
This is a crisis. I think that we're still in the housing affordability crisis, and it's difficult to read these words and then see headlines in some YouTube videos where we're talking about a housing implosion. The housing bubble is bursting as we speak. And words like impending and words like collapse, they still mean something. There's like impending means it's about to happen. If you say that every single day for 2 months, then impending doesn't really mean that, does it?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We only say it every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
As a teaser.
That's true. But also collapse. I would say that's definitely not the right word to use, because collapse means like it's falling under its own weight. There's something inherent in the housing market that is going to lead it to collapsing on itself.
Like suppressed, or it's like it's being pushed down from
an external source.
Yeah. And I think that there's a graph. We talked about this statistic just earlier on in today's show, but just the mortgaging, the cost of a mortgage versus the cost of rent. So obviously, so this is the chart on the right side of the screen. Historically, the past couple of years, there's been like a spread of like $200 or so, basically $200 to $400. Say that spread right now is $1,000.
Yeah, that is insane. That is something that I would put on the thumbnail. That's believable. Things are exciting happening, and there's like crazy things happening in the housing market. You don't have to talk about it collapsing. You can talk about how the gap between mortgage and rent payment is 5 times almost what it used to be. That's like incredible. Times. Yeah. And like for all this stuff, and we talked about for the last 2 or 3 weeks about how rents are going to move inflation. But man, when it seems like they've got even more room to grow if we're talking about if we're comparing them to a mortgage payment. Yeah. So
I mean, fewer households can afford to own homes. I mean, look at this graph. Look at that sharp decline.
What was
it's comparing minimum annual income that you're going to need to afford a home, and then just how many houses, the percentage of houses that could afford. In 2019, just under 50% of households could afford a home, and that you'd have to be making, basically you could afford around 100. Basically, the annual income to be able to afford was $100,000. Now it's only less than 30% of households can afford to own a home. I mean, going from, call it 50% down to 20-some percent.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people who, again, we've talked about this in the past. There are so many individuals that were potential renters by choice that are now renters by necessity. Now they may still be making good incomes, but they still can't afford a home.
Yeah. And that cultural shift makes it could happen because of these forces. It could really happen where it's like, you know what? I thought about buying a house, but after so long, it's like, why is it even worth it?
Why is it even worth it? And again, for the value they're getting for an apartment, and again, this is why we're seeing, and we can expect to continue to see growth in the kind of solid B class through the luxury A class segment. I think that the C class workforce housing is going to catch up, but there's so many. That's the kind of that bottom quartile or whatever of renters of incomes that are just they're going to be struggling due to inflationary pressures. In the short term, I think that those wages are going to increase over time, and I just think there's a little bit more risk speculating what's going to happen on that income segment. But there's going to be a lot more demand. There already is, again, in that B and A kind of class space.